Greetings, fellow visitors. This is Upgrade Terminal, a Star of Providence fan cast. I'm Malachi.
And I'm Nick. Welcome back to the facility. Today, we are joined by our friend Dialixx for another wonderful pilot interview. Say hello, Dialixx.
Hey, what's up?
Hello.
Nice to have you back here again after the last episode, which was the last episode we had you, which was the Advanced Geomancy episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was great fun. I think I spoke during that episode about maybe doing a pilot interview, and I guess here we are.
You're a prophet.
Always have been, always will be.
Yes, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
So when's the game coming out? When's the update coming out?
According to Iron John, in how many days? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Yeah, as of time of recording, that would be 11 days until the anniversary of the release of the game. I am personally a bit pessimistic about that.
It'd be nice.
It would be, but I kind of hope it's not shadow dropped on that day. That'd be a bummer.
That would be a bummer.
I need to be able to plan around it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think if it was shadow drop, I would be on the one hand absolutely delighted, oh, it's here. On the other hand, like, oh my goodness, coordination and planning and all of the stuff I had planned is just completely thrown out the window. I'd be panicking.
It would be like a friend I haven't seen in years, like calling me, be like, "Hey, I'm at on your front porch. Like, where are you?" And I'm like, "I'm at work, dude. I'm at work."
I've since moved.
Oh,
Are you at the right address? How did you find my house?
Exactly. It would be chaos.
yeah.
But you know what? Maybe that's what Pure and Alex and that's what they want.
Oh, I feel like Flan would revel in that chaos, be like, yeah, I'm messing up everything.
Flan would love that, absolutely. But it'd still be a really questionable decision on their part, considering how they've gone about it so far.
Yeah. Realistically, don't think it'll happen because, Donkey, Big Mode, it's a business now, right? So that would be a business decision, and they're not just going to shadow drop it.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, Dialixx, it's great to have you back with us. And we always start with something nice that happened to us this week. So we'll start with you as our guest.
Yeah. Played Animal Well recently, and I haven't really completed my experience with it. I haven't gotten sick of the game or become satisfied with my experience. Haven't tired of it yet. It's just I haven't played it in a short while. So it's so far one of my favorite puzzle games. It's one of those things where I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to spoil either anybody in the audience or either of you. So
what are your general impressions of the game?
It's very friendly, and ultimately, even somebody who's not as much of a nut about puzzle games as me, just like a normal person, would be able to exit the game feeling as though they've had a complete experience, if I could speak.
I like that aspect about it a lot because I think Donkey described it as a lasagna game or something like that. So there are
a game of many layers.
Yeah, there are layers to it, and I've been playing it as well, Dialixx, and I really liked it. And you're absolutely right that the first layer of the game is very satisfying, probably to most players. And yeah, definitely not something to be spoiled, but I think if you are even a little bit interested in puzzle games, it's a great experience. And you can come away being really satisfied, like Dialixx said.
Yeah. Personally, that first layer kind of left me wanting more out of the game, but that's probably just a matter of me knowing there was going to be more than what was just presented as the full experience, even though, of course, there's going to be more. That's how it's been advertised and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I'm not done with it. So
So you've
here,
continued eating the lasagna.
yeah, I'm weird. I eat this lasagna by layer instead of cutting into it with a fork like a normal person.
You're really enjoying it though, you know.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I aim to enjoy it more. It's just you got to pick it up first.
yeah. I really like just the general ambiance of the game, and it was funny because just within a few days of the game launching, Big Mode released like like those like hour long ambiance videos on YouTube. They did those for Animal Well, a couple of them, and those are super nice. I've already used them a few times. Like when I'm at work, I'll just listen to that while I'm working. It's
I
very
wasn't
nice.
aware of that. I At first I thought the decision to not really have conventional music was a little puzzling, but yeah, overall, just having such rich ambience in place of that is a fantastic decision. Now that I've played it for nearly 20 hours, and the art style is nice and pleasing to the eyes as well.
Yeah, I love it.
What about you, Malachi? What's something that's happened to you this week?
Well, this week was a long weekend in the U.S. because of the more Memorial Day holiday, and I was able to drive down and visit my parents in Idaho, and that was just nice because I, a trip home can be really nice. Had was able to eat homemade salsa. My parents have hummingbird feeders hanging outside their windows. I was able to see a lot of hummingbirds. Always love seeing
Ooh.
that, and just a nice trip.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was, and it was a lot of driving. But I'm actually someone who likes driving quite a bit. I drive a lot for work too, so I'm just warming up for the summer season when I got to do a lot of driving. What, Nick? What about you? What's something nice that happened to you this week?
Um. So, my parents, especially my dad, they like to play host. Have family and friends around for meals and stuff. Have guests over,
Mm-hmm.
and usually you know, I'm the kind of person that prefers to be someone who helps, organize and move things about. Moving dishes, preparing food, and not so much being like the centerpiece, the center of attention.
Yeah.
One of the things that my parents in particular asked me to do for these events is to prepare a charcuterie board. So it's,
Oh.
you just prepare a whole bunch of cheeses and like some nuts and cured
Mm-hmm.
meats and everything, and just serve them up on a platter. And they like asking me to do that because they know that I'm not just gonna just slice some things and chuck them in there. I like to be like, okay, now let's cut them all neatly, following a pattern, and arrange them in a very particular way on the board.
Mm-hmm.
So you have all of the cured products on one end and the cheeses on the other side, and you have the nuts in between, and you have like the sliced things on one other plate, and everything has its own little, like the olives are served in this tiny little bowl, and you have another bowl for pickles or what have you. And
Uh huh.
I really like being able to be almost creative and fun when with food, to just sort of
Yeah.
prepare everything that is both tasty but also pleasing to the eye in the way that it is presented.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a tiny thing, but I really like it. It's a nice thing to sort of to put in front of guests, and they look at it, and it's tempting, and it's all neatly arranged. It just brings me a little bit of joy to do that, even if it's all the hard work ends up being devoured, quite
Mm-hmm.
literally.
So, did you build Overlord out of pepperoni or what?
No, no. This was a very it was this in this case it was just 5 people. It was a
Uh huh.
very relatively modest one.
Nice. Well, it sounds
But
like you really enjoy that.
I do, but it's like, okay, you have to be ready to spend 30 minutes or 45 minutes taking care of everything, because you are literally, I'm grabbing all of the cheeses and I'm cutting them, and I'm taking all the salami and I'm also cutting that. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. I feel like the effort you put into food is almost always worth it. And even if if the presentation doesn't really affect, well, I would say the way it's presented doesn't affect the way it tastes, but there's some truth to the fact that we eat with our eyes first. If something looks delicious and looks tempting,
Mhm.
already that primes you for a more enjoyable experience. So,
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
In a sense, food is art before it's eaten,
hmm
depending on how you present it. It's a whole aspect
hmm
to cooking in and
hmm
of itself.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I'm the kind of cook that doesn't really put too much thought into the presentation. I cook simply and it's kind of cut and dry. And
hmm
if it ends up looking good, it does, but it doesn't have to. And I've kind of adjusted my tastes around that, so something that doesn't look appealing to somebody else might still look appealing to me, just by virtue of me having cooked this way for so long. But yeah, I get it 100%.
I mean, if I'm cooking for myself, I don't really care that much. I don't put that much effort in. But if we're having guests over and I have to present this and be like, I made this, I do like to sort of go the extra step and just be like, it looks nice. You know,
Hmm.
it at least conveys that it wasn't thoughtless. I didn't just throw stuff. Like, I actually took the time and effort to prepare this carefully. So,
Yeah.
hopefully it's something that they appreciate. And if not, I still liked it.
Did you bring up Star of Providence with any of the guests?
I'm trying to be a normal person, Malachi.
Good, you passed the test.
Ugh.
Dialix, the first question we want to ask you is a question we enjoy asking everybody we talk to. What games did you grow up playing?
I think my first experience with games was when I don't know, I was like 3 or 4, and I was like on my dad's lap looking at the desktop, and he was playing uh, Big Money. It's a pop gap game.
Oh,
And
goodness.
I know that was my first experience with games, and later on I got a PS2, and what I remember most vividly about that was playing Ratchet and Clank,
Mm-hmm.
which I ended up repurchasing a PlayStation 2 later on expressly to play that game again because I still hadn't like had the resources to emulate anything.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
At that same time, I would play Flash games.
Of
I
course.
gravitated to Newgrounds. I'm just of
Mm-hmm.
that age group. Of course, I played Flash games.
Mm-hmm.
Riddle School and Amorphous Plus come to mind.
Oh my goodness, Amorphous Plus. I love that game
I,
so much.
I still play that on Flashpoint every so often. It's so much good fun.
Yeah, and so much deeper than you think it would be at first.
Yeah, it's like it had no business being so good for a Flash game that presented itself so. It looks so meager at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, but it ends up being like one of the best Flash games I've played.
Mm. Yeah, that's a very good Flash game. I have fond memories of playing that on Congregate.
Hmm.
Congregate was where I was playing Flash games as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of Amorphous Plus, but I'll have to check it out.
Oh, it's real good. It's you're controlling a little dude with a huge sword and you're killing monsters, and you think, well, that sounds pretty basic, and then monsters start getting pretty interesting, and then they start combining and fusing,
Mm-hmm.
and then
And the game gets complex and chaotic quite
mm-hmm,
fast, and it's a grand time.
mm-hmm. Oh yeah, easy recommendation for a Flash game.
Hmm.
Hmm. Um, we eventually sold the PS2 and we got an Xbox 360, which I stayed on for longer than that console generation. lived, and that's where I began having a taste for indie games, because that was about the time when indie games began to get a foothold in the public sphere for gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In particular, Fez gave me a love for puzzle games, and Spelunky and Super Meat Boy did my head in, and that might be the reason why I like difficult games nowadays.
Oh,
Even
we'll
though,
we'll get back to that. Don't you worry.
um, but yeah, back then they used to piss me off more than anything, so I quit playing them for a while.
No, that's also fair. It's also fair.
I've since then learned how to keep a level head while playing games, though. So,
Hmm.
and the solution usually is quit playing before you get pissed off.
Hmm.
That's good advice. I wish I had learned that sooner in life.
Me too.
Hmm.
Uh, I was granted a computer for school. That's how I began with a Steam account when I was rather young that I wasn't able to use until I received a computer.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple of freeware titles here and there, like Cave Story, everybody. That was actually probably a formative experience for me,
Mm-hmm.
as well as
Hmm.
Humaniki's another freeware one.
A
Yeah.
classic.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might have influenced some of your artistic output, let's say, which we'll also get back to later.
Almost definitely, and
Hmm.
other adjacent pieces of media, but we can get back to that later, like you said.
Hmm. So, this is what you grew up playing. At what point does Star of Providence, or as it was known then, Monolith, come into your life? How'd that happen?
Well, once I had a computer to myself, I was able to like explore the internet on my own terms, and over time, I ended up finding more and more obscure pieces of media.
Hmm.
And I was browsing YouTube one day, and as many other people, ended up experiencing Star of Providence, or Monolith as it was for the first time. Donkey's Best of 2017, I think,
Mm-hmm.
where it and Zero Ranger were on the list.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And that was when I was like 16 or 17, I think,
Hmm.
which was a while before I entered the community.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up playing Zero Ranger first, and it was funny because finishing the games and seeing that the devs of those two games knew each other, yeah, that was neat. But I ended up putting a lot more time into Star of Providence than I did Zero Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm really glad Donkey made that video.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't be playing my favorite game if it wasn't for that.
Yeah, apparently Donkey and this game go way back.
Yeah, it was that's funny because I feel like Star of Providence getting picked up by Big Mode kind of just like ties the story all together
Mm-hmm.
for how Star of Providence initially took off in a sense, and it, it's like closure to that arc of this game's life. You
Yeah.
know,
Well, especially for you, for your story with it, because that's like, that's how you started. That's how you discovered it, was through Donkey. And
Mm-hmm.
then now Donkey's going to publish it on Switch.
here we are, yeah, and it's awesome because I love to see that this game's getting more recognition.
You said it's your favorite game. What about it has kept you engaged with it for so long, Dialix?
Um, I know I wasn't enraptured by the game as much as I am now at the beginning.
Hmm.
I mean, in the beginning, at the after the end version was it in a lot of ways it was the same game, but in a lot of different ways it it wasn't the same as it is now. I feel like today it's in a better place than it was before.
I think I picked up the game like immediately after the DLC drop,
Mm-hmm.
but like I didn't get the DLC because I wanted to experience the game as
Yep.
it stood before I got the DLC, and I played through the game, through floor 6, through
Mm-hmm.
hard mode, and I loved it. So I picked up the DLC, and I think I played the game casually for like 200 hours. It's weird to say that you play a game casually for 200 hours,
Oh,
but
I know that feeling.
1,000 hours in now, of course, that's my casual phase. And that was before I even joined the community, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to remember that far back because I've been playing the game for coming 5 years now, and I'm certainly a different player than I was then.
But like, what is it about it that is like so gripping to you? What makes you keep going back to it?
It's very tightly designed,
Mm-hmm.
and it knows what it's going for.
You feel like the game has a vision of what it wants to be and executes that vision very well.
Yes. And it keeps me engaged through being designed well and having a high skill ceiling.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
I really haven't found a place in the game where I mean, of course, there's a skill ceiling and I'm close to it,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't reached like a hard skill ceiling, and the game doesn't have facets of it punishing me for taking it further. It's not like the roguelike aspects and the RNG are placed tastefully
Mm-hmm.
and respect the player's time and commitment to the game.
It's very fair.
Yes, it respects the player.
Mm-hmm. It has luck in it, but it is not allowing luck to determine what the run is going to be like or what even can be accomplished. It says, if you master this game, as you have, then you can achieve it. No doubt about it. It's just up to you to get there.
Yeah, even if you have bad luck, no run is ever lost until it is.
At this point in your journey, like, as where we are now, 2024, it's safe to say that you have indeed mastered this game and you've even garnered a bit of a reputation among some people for being, you know, very much in the, oh yeah, let's make it harder. Like, let's go, skill ceiling, pump that up even more.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, that's where you are now. Like, what do you think you can say about your journey of getting better at the game? What was it like to get better, to see your own progress, and at some point looking back and being surprised at, like, oh wait, I've come so far actually. Like, I'm way at the far end of the spectrum.
Those first couple dozen hours, I remember in particular being like, I am never going to surmount all of the challenges this game has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
Like after I beat Monolith for the first time, I remember specifically I was carried that run by a particularly strong Vulcan.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like triple Gatling,
That's very
high
good.
caliber homing.
I can't have Gatling and high caliber at the same weapon.
It was after the end. So I'm not sure if that was.
I'm pretty sure even then that was like those were two mutually exclusive. But the point still stands. You had an excellent Vulcan that made short work of a monolith.
Yeah, and even then it was grueling. I I made it by the skin of my teeth, and I'm like, wow, I'm never going to surmount everything else this game has to offer. I want to play the DLC, but I'm not cut out for this.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, on several occasions I've reflected upon that moment, and I can't really say it's surreal to see myself here anymore, considering I've put so many hours into getting good at this game very deliberately.
Hmm.
I guess I'm proud of myself.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Like I feel like you've earned that satisfaction, that feeling to say, yeah, I've put 1,000 hours into this to be good, and I am. So you can pat yourself in the back and be like, yeah, I did it. I got there.
I mean, the only thing I could say is I wish there was more for me to conquer,
Well,
but
that's what the update on the beta is for.
of course,
Yeah, I think we all agree with you there.
Hmm.
yeah.
But I like that. Like, this has been your reality for so long now that you can just accept it and
Hmm.
kind of look back and see how far you've come and be proud of that. That's really awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I'm happy this game is a part of my life, for that matter.
Hmm.
I'd never thought about it like that, and that makes me. I'm like, wow, like, yeah. Sometimes you just need to stop and kind of take a look back on how far you've come as a player.
I guess, as thrilling as it is to be, to find yourself improving at the game, there is a kind of a bittersweet thing of like when you've become so good at it that you feel like, well, the game can no longer test you or challenge you. It's like at one point in time, oh, ASP, that's like a super tough, only the best of the best. It's so insane. And then at one point, it's like, yeah, I can just do that.
Yeah, I mean, for one, I'm glad I'm able to have fun with the game in that way, but
Hmm.
like, I do miss the thrill of overcoming new challenges, and like we said, the beta is allowing me to experience that in a sense.
Hmm.
Slightly different, of course.
Hmm.
Yeah. Do you have any memories or stories about Star of Providence, the game itself, or the community that you cherish, Dialix?
I enjoy racing with you guys. I enjoy interacting with the game in a social manner because that's, I don't know, uh, I'm not very social of a gamer. I like my single player experiences, but
Mm-hmm.
racing is like a whole different thing. It feels like it's always been great to just shoot the shit and play the game with each other.
Hmm.
And well, for one, there's the competition aspect of it. For two,
Hmm.
there's the fact that we can compare and contrast our performances and even learn from each other as we play,
Hmm.
either about the game or about how we can improve or what have you.
I mean, what I enjoy about it is that for all of the virtues that it has, Star of Providence is still very much a single player game. And part of the reason why I like racing is that it allows me to turn it not necessarily exactly a multiplayer game, but it is something that I'm sharing in that moment with other people. And you know, the pit, like, if it's something like a monorail, it's a serious competition and we're genuinely trying to push each other. But if it's just like we're just casually racing or using the bot, then it's just kind of an excuse to socialize
Mm-hmm.
and just
Yeah,
have fun. And as someone who was very involved in trying to create opportunities for that, makes me quite happy to know that that is something that is appreciated.
I've kind of been missing being a part of the community lately, so maybe we should do that more often.
Like I said, dude, the sprint server, we have a racing bot. You can just like be like, hey, does anyone want to race? And if I'm available, I'm probably going to pick up and like, yeah, hell yeah, let's just do some races, let's just have some fun.
I'll keep that in mind.
So you were invited to be part of the beta testing team, and I have written the date down here as the 5th of March 2023. That's when you were invited to be part of the beta testing team. Like, what was it like, Pure approaching you and being like, hey, you want to be a beta tester, and then getting to be part of that and playing with beta builds and seeing like some of the content that nobody else gets to see. Like, we can't spoil it what it is, obviously, but like
Of course.
just talking about being a beta tester in general.
Well, first off, has it really been over a year?
Yeah.
That's what I was just thinking. I was like, wow, it's been over. You've been beta testing for over a year at this point, then.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been paying attention, man.
I have all of them written down. Like, you and Rutabaga came in on the same day.
Yeah, I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I remember hearing word like in almost hushed tones about the beta ever since I joined the server, and it was. I remember asking on one or two occasions, "Hey, what's up with the beta? What's the deal with it?
Yeah.
Is it like open or what? Or why you guys, why is it so esoteric?"
Oh man.
And like, yeah, this is a closed beta, and I was like, okay, whatever. I just let it be. It was one of those things where I'm not, and never really was, too bent out of shape over the update not happening.
But you kind of left your proverbial card at the door. like, like, hey, I've heard about this thing. I'm interested.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And then I played the game and was a part of the community enough to be approached by the developers of the game. It's like, hey, you want to be a part of the beta? Of course I want to be a part of the beta for my favorite game. I want more content for this game I love. And I don't know it. I felt like a kid, basically. I was given exactly what I wanted for Christmas and got it was a dream for me, really. And here I am able to play the beta. And it's been a great experience since then. And
Yeah.
it's provided me even more opportunity to be a part of the community for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so many excuses for positive experiences, is all.
Yeah, and also I feel like for me, being part of the beta testing team is kind of an honor, but also a responsibility in that you are being trusted with this sort of information, this knowledge of what is going to come, and being told, we're going to listen to your feedback directly. Like, you have a direct line of communication, and so you get to sort of whisper in the ear of the developers and be like, it should be like this.
I never really considered it in that sense, but I always have tried to be careful to keep in mind what the game's identity is and what
Mm-hmm.
would be best if I was to contribute to the game in terms of feedback or suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've established that I'm not exactly the most accurate in assessing like the
Difficulty.
difficulty of things because I am token bullshit detector and that's about it.
Well, it's like, you are someone who is at, like I said, at the far end of the spectrum of like players who have fully mastered the difficulty of this game, and on the one hand it makes you a very impressive player, but you're also not an accurate representation of what most people's capabilities are.
Yeah, I have to like make an active effort in like viewing myself and my experience with the game as a third party in order to make any sort of accurate assessment. Like I know me and you have had conversations like bullshitting about like me going and saying, "Oh yeah, everybody's able to do all super bosses," just like on yeah, and like Like even the other day, it's like I thought a 10:48 time was mid, and you had to remind me that, hey, even for racing, that's a good time.
Yeah. It's got like it just I feel like, it's good to keep you grounded and be like, hey, like it's great that you're able to do this, but you have to keep in mind, where most people are at. And this is something that I was also pretty bad at one point. Like, I speak from experience that, yeah, I am also someone who can forget, like, yeah, I am not the average player. And so my feedback has to be taken with a grain of salt in that regard.
I think I prefer it this way over me not being able to play at the skill level, though, considering the fact that I'm able to wring more feedback out of the game this
Hmm.
way, even if it does require more effort on my part.
Hmm.
Well, I think it's just you have a different role to play as a beta tester, right?
Yeah.
Like with your skill level, you're not the person who's detecting if it's easy for the normies. You're able to get to all the content, see all the content, and in that way, you're probably able to find and identify more bugs than someone who can't do all super boss runs
Hmm.
could.
Yeah. I will say there is a place, of course, for people who are more inexperienced, just so that people can gauge from a distance like how people are experiencing the changes made at a
Sure.
lower level.
Hmm.
Um, I wish I was able to do that as well, but oh well.
It's not the role you play in this particular, community.
But I play a role, and I'm happy with that. When the level editor dropped, I had ambitions to create a series of level packs to be able to replace every uh, level file in the game, every floor. Yeah, like a second facility almost.
Hmm.
And I still aim to do that, though I kind of burnt myself out the first time around because within a week I ended up making 200 rooms and, well, just a little more than that. But
You're probably building
yeah,
rooms in your sleep.
yeah, I like got a Tetris effect for the level editor UI. More than likely, I can't remember if I did, but I wouldn't be surprised if I did.
Yeah, you gotta remember, like, Pure, that did that, but over the course of like years and years.
Yeah, instead of like pounding out 75 rooms in a day, I imagine it'd be like a dozen, maybe, which is probably more. I mean, like, you don't want to burn yourself out, man.
Yeah, and I would it be fair to say that to some extent burnout has been part of the reason why you've been taking a break from the community?
In large part, yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, I can only play a game I've played for 1,000 hours for so long before I begin to yearn for more.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this game to death,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't play only Star of Providence.
No, of
That's
course not.
fair. And I guess maybe a different way to put the question is like, do you have any like plans or ambitions once the update hits?
Well, I'm certainly excited to share the update with the community.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm excited in particular to see the reactions that
Mm-hmm.
people will have to certain things, but I
Mm-hmm.
can't elaborate any further than that. Um, you'll see.
Oh yes,
You
Malachi
will
will
see.
see.
I wish I could vocalize a smile.
Oh, I can hear it. I can hear it. I know it's there.
Yeah.
So, Dialix, I recently saw you posting your art in the server, and I unfortunately did not know you were an artist until that moment. And I just wanted to ask you about your art and if Star of Providence has inspired you, or if you've done any fan art of the game.
I have done fan art here and there of the game. It's some joke pieces of art, most of them joke pieces of art, which
Still art.
still art, great fun, which I find to be the point of me making art. Honestly, I have to enjoy it. It's hard to say if it's inspired me. Well,
Mhm.
how it's inspired me. It has inspired me, but it's hard to place how because I've played the game for so long and I've really had the time to absorb the game's art direction. Um, I work with pixel art, so it's of
Mhm.
course easier to translate what I see in the game to my own art if I so choose. I took note of the game's limited palette. I've asked a couple times for the full palette and I've gotten access to it and it's nice.
Hmm.
I don't know, there's novelty in that sort of thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And what I'll say is Star of Providence has a really, really solid art direction. And like I said, the game knows what it's going for, has an artistic vision. And the art in particular sells, it's the biggest aesthetic component the game has to offer. And
Hmm.
for what it goes for, it excels. In particular, the game knows how to make a scene grand or intimidating. If it wants you to feel scared, it will make you feel it in your bones, really.
Mhm. Mhm.
Do you sort of appreciate sort of the game being able to do that through its aesthetics and its presentation, in spite of, or perhaps even because, in a sense, it's also not minimalist, but it sort of doesn't need a lot to do that. It just needs to have a few elements masterfully put together to really evoke what it wants to.
Honestly, that's what I aim to do with my art. So yeah, it's incredibly impressive to me that the game can do as much as it can with. I mean, it doesn't really like on purpose narrow its scope,
Hmm.
but it doesn't need what it doesn't need, and it doesn't take what it doesn't need in order to do the things that it does.
So I guess one way of saying it would be like it knows exactly what it needs to do to convey what it wants to, and does not add any superfluous stuff on top. It goes, this is what is necessary, and it has that confidence to pull off that execution.
Yeah, it's a very lean piece of work, and
Hmm.
I mean, I've already commented on how it's like that in a mechanical sense, and artistically, it's the same way, really.
And the reason why I sort of make all of these comments is because it makes me wonder if those are the things you get out of it. Is that what you're trying to output in your own art?
Well, I'll note that I don't have the same direction with my art as Star of Providence does. I
Hmm.
do seek to have the same effect in like evoking what I want to evoke with only a limited. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't want to limit myself
Hmm.
artistically in like terms of medium or what tools I can use, but I want to master the tools that I know how to use and to only need a small set of tools to do what I want within medium, which I guess I've struggled with, but that's kind of just like the eternal struggle of doing art in the first place.
Mm-hmm. It's just sort of an innate part of being an artist.
Yeah, because there's always room to grow, and of course you're your own worst critic, so you're always going to find ways that you can improve in one regard or another, or hell, you might think that you need to improve in one regard, or when ultimately you don't see that there's a strength within your perceived flaw
Mm-hmm.
that might only come to your attention later by virtue of you reflecting on your own work or somebody else having to tell you,
Mm-hmm.
hey, this piece of the art really did something for me.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Where can listeners find your art, Dialixx,
Um,
and you in general on the internet?
Yeah.
if you want to talk to me, I have a Discord. It's Dialixx, as it's spelled in the
Mm-hmm.
title of this episode, and I do
Mm-hmm.
commissions for that matter. So if when you see my art, you want some of that, ask me, pay me, go ahead.
Awesome.
Um, otherwise, I have a Tumblr and a YouTube. You
Mm-hmm.
can contact me on Tumblr and see my art there. On YouTube, not so much, but you can see me play Star of Providence there.
Mm-hmm.
That's always a treat.
We'll have links in the description, of course, so people can just go there directly.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, likewise.
The pleasure is ours.
Thanks so much for listening to our Star of Providence fancast. Big thanks, as always, to Garoslaw for allowing us to use his music and sound effects.
And you can check out all of the Star of Providence soundtracks over at Garoslaw Bandcamp. The base game soundtrack, the Relics of the Past soundtrack, and the 5th Anniversary Edition soundtrack.
If you have any comments or suggestions for the show, you can reach out to us on our Discord server. We'll post the server link in the show notes.
And once again, thank you so much to Dialixx for being here and just talking to us and just being a cool community member.
Yeah, thanks, Dialixx.
Thank you for having me.
And in our server, you'll find fellow pilots to talk with and discuss the show. Thanks for listening. We hope you'll join us next time.
This is what you came for, isn't it?
So be it.